Don't let him beat you.
Go, Red, go. You can do it.
Somebody's gonna fall. Brad wins. When we first arrived at the museum, we had the chance to visit with Ahmaud Ward, and even right there in the lobby, in the first 5 minutes, we began to realize there's so much about this history. We had no idea.
So during the Constitution tour, we've been talking about all those rights. In the 40s and 50s, some people didn't, they were being denied those rights.
Just us having this regular old conversation, because we got a mixed group, which would have been illegal in this city 51 years ago.
Wow.
And it's because of work with Dr. King that we can do this right now.
One of the things that has come up a lot, and we found it interesting, was he was a communist, or at least that was something that was placed upon him.
Right.
We just want the truth. Do you know anything about that?
Well, yeah. The communism angle was used for a lot of black leaders. It was a great way to try to besmirch somebody, saying, well, he's a communist.
Right.
And there was a billboard in this state that had him at a communist facility. It really was like a nonviolent training. And the billboard just said, Communist Training Society. Of course, if you don't know any better, you'll see that and believe it.
So this would be a great opportunity not only to answer this question that we've been asked, but for my kids for the first time to really be exposed to the evil that took place and the light that was shown by this family during these very difficult days. For these guys, it's hard to even fathom what happened here. When we think of bombings of a church and children being killed, we think of the Middle East. We think of terrorism around the world. And we think, thank God that's not happening in America. But 50 years ago, you could not say, thank God that's not happening in America. It was happening in our backyard.
You're talking about domestic terrorism.
Yes.
A lot of things that happen in the civil rights movement is all domestic terrorism. And you've got kids being killed in church bombings. You've got houses being bombed. There were so many bombs that took place in Birmingham that we got the nickname Birmingham.
Really?
From the mid-1940s to the early 1960s, there were about 50 unsolved bombings in this city.
That really stuck with me because of how cruel that was and just, these precious lives that they were just, torn apart.
You can't run from that history. You got to embrace it. But you learn and then you move forward and make sure it never happens again.
Yeah.
For me, it was really cool to go to the museum and finally have almost a vivid image of what I've thought about over the years in terms of these situations happening.
The first thing you see are the segregated water fountains. And for me, I felt almost embarrassed a little bit, sad that the kids have to know what happened in such a very recent time.
Just imagine if you were a black kid and you were told you weren't allowed to drink out of that because that's only for white folks. How would you feel? It actually hit me pretty hard looking at the water fountains and knowing that my mom's family, being from Alabama, was part of that. They were part of the problem at the time. And, here we are 2 generations later. I want to be part of the solution.
Being in a place like this, man, you could spend hours, a whole day just walking around taking in all the displays. Because it's never just one thing that'll help you understand it. It was the entire museum. It was everything in it that painted the entire picture for me of what that era was like and what the world was like just 50, 60 years ago.
It was actually law that they had to be segregated and that the whites couldn't meet up with the blacks in this cafe or wherever. That's just crazy.
They don't even care. They're just enjoying their time. I couldn't imagine her just watching this.
That doesn't make you sick to your stomach and angry and mad, and it doesn't hit you in the gut like a block of concrete, then I don't know what does.
Sometimes, if you're going to tell history like it really happened, if you're going to share the good, the bad, and the ugly, there are times that are not so fun. There are times when you discover things about your nation that you're not proud of.
Wait, Dad, what's this?
Right, that's what the Klan, so the Klan would wear that to disguise themselves. If you were growing up black, that's a dreaded, dreaded symbol right there, because you watched people from your family and your church die at their hands. If you want to appreciate your freedom, you need to walk through that museum and realize the price that was paid by this group of Americans for them to experience the same freedom that others had enjoyed.